This is how the program is going to run. Ladies and gentlemen, the first program is arrival of guests, which we have done very well. Arrival and registration, as well as breakfast, which the Secretariat is in charge of. It's only breakfast where we are underperforming, and the advice is that we do breakfast as we speak. We do a working breakfast. So one of your first assignment, before even sitting, should be holding a plate, cutlery, and picking whatever you want, ending with tea, and then coming with that plate and a cup of tea or coffee or juice on your table, enjoying it as you listen attentively. I know lawyers can multitask, and like lawyers, policemen, people in the jail sector are good at multitasking. It is some people who only first eat and then listen later. The people we have in this room are very good at multitasking. And I see some people in uniform, for them, that they even do much better. So you should even look at them as they are doing, do it like that. Eat first and listen attentively. After that, we are going to have this function opened, and the president is already in our midst. He's reading by example by stirring a cup of tea, and he's going to come. Mr. President, I don't want to go on further without hearing from you. The people demand that you ascend on the podium and give remarks that will give others the locus and the impetus to move on with this function. Mr. President, sir.
Thank you, moderator. As you can see, he's used to filing public interest litigation cases. So his language is the people demand that you ascend. So you can easily tell what he does on a daily basis. My lord, the DPP, the heads of mission present here, the UPDF, members of the legal fraternity, those attending online, we welcome you here to our quarter rule of law report 2024. This rule of law report covers January, February, and March. Because we have not launched it, I was just going to advise that the remarks are on page 6 of the report. But briefly, it is my privilege again this will be our 28th State of the Rule of Law report. Members, as you know, and our guests here, the rule of law stands as the cornerstone of a just and equitable society and ensures that all individuals are treated fairly and equally under the law. At the Uganda Law Society, we are committed to upholding this principle and advocating for its steadfast implementation across all sectors of society. I want to take this special opportunity to extend our gratitude to all our strategic partners, all of you who are here. I want to say thank you. Thank you for supporting the Uganda Law Society in executing its mandate. It is through this collaboration and assistance that we are able to effectively carry out our mission at the Uganda Law Society. And with your support, we are publishing reports on a quarterly basis every quarter, highlighting areas of progress and challenges that demand urgent attention. I want to emphasize the fact that we are not just critics. We do highlight the areas of progress and then also highlight the areas that demand urgent attention. It is only fair to say that whenever you're looking at an issue, you look at it from the perspective of two sides. So as Uganda Law Society, we are committed to looking at the positives, and then we also look at the negatives. The first quarter of this year witnessed a number of commendable achievements. I think the number one achievement that we have seen in the first quarter of this year is the establishment of new high court circuits. I think this is something that we must applaud as Uganda Law Society and applaud the government for establishing new high court circuits, because that means that you'll have more people being able to access justice, and that is very hopeful, especially considering the numbers that we see at the courts. The other positive development, and as I go directly into the report, the other positive development that we have also seen is again the police launching the Uganda Police Annual Crime Report of 2023. I think we must commend the Uganda Police Force for launching the 2023 Annual Crime Report because that then gives a basis on which we can be able to support and analyze the issues around criminal justice in this country. So we want to commend the Uganda Police for launching the Annual Crime Report of 2023. But that said, I think there are a few issues that the crime report has stated, which I think we need to pay urgent attention to. The fact that while we are increasing the numbers at the High Court and increasing the number of judges and magistrates, there needs to be a corresponding increase in the number of police and then a corresponding increase in the number of DPP, state attorneys at these courts. Because if you don't do that, then the whole criminal justice chain will be challenged. Because you'll have a judge, but then you'll not have a state attorney at the court. So then again, we'll go back to the usual challenges that we have. So I think our appeal here to government is to ensure that even as we increase the budget of the judiciary, let's also look at increasing the budget of the Uganda Police and the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution. Because the justice chain starts from police and then ends up into the courts of judicature. So that is important, and I think that was noted, and we want to add our voice and continue to appeal. On the negative breaches of the rule of law in this quarter, I think we want to speak to about three majorly. I'm not going to be able to go through the whole report. You'll be able to get the whole report. But I want to speak to three majorly. One is the continued trial of civilians by the military court. Our members here from the UPDF are here. It is important for us to again restate, and this follows a constitutional court decision in Amon Byarugaba versus Attorney General, where the courts have clearly stated that military courts should be for UPDF officers and our courts should be for civilian officers. So this decision we know has been appealed and stayed by the Attorney General. It's very important that the Supreme Court, where this appeal has been made, makes a decision on this issue, because I think that is now what is standing in the way. So it is important to continue to highlight the issue of the continued trial of civilians at the military courts as an issue that needs to be dealt with by the court, in terms of giving us a position so that then government and all other stakeholders can be able to follow the position that has been given by the court. The other issue that is of fundamental importance is the controversial Parliamentary Service Award emoluments. In the last quarter, of course, we saw awards being given, for example, to members of parliament, 500 million and 400 million. As the Uganda Law Society, we have continued to say that unless the bill was presented by the executive and followed the law, it is illegal. The same process that is being followed by the Auditor General's award. And I think you can see that there is a debate on the award of the Auditor General. That is the same process this award should have followed. In the absence of that process, those awards remain to be illegal. We can argue other things, but ours as a Uganda Law Society is to ensure that whatever is done is done in accordance with the law. So we also continue to appeal to Parliament and to address the issues that the public raises. It's important as a form of accountability. So we continue to appeal to Parliament to address those issues and deal with the issues and the challenges that we face. There's also an issue of threats and intimidation against social media activists, and I think as Uganda Law Society we are able to call out to speak to it and say, you know, it is important to defend human rights defenders. And so our major recommendation here is that we call upon Parliament to expedite the enactment of the Human Rights Defenders Bill, which recognizes, promotes, and enhances the protection of human rights defenders and their work. There have also been issues around environmental degradation, and environment, as you know, is a very important issue. We would like, first of all, to appreciate the European Union for providing a grant of 167 billion to Uganda to combat environmental degradation. I think also that follows that we need to be able to build capacity in all the other state agencies that deal with environmental degradation so that we can be able to deal with this challenge. The other important issue that we need also to highlight in this report is the prolonged land conflicts. The Justice Needs Survey report that was done recently highlighted the fact that the number one issue that Ugandans go to the court is land conflict. Most of the matters are around land. And as Uganda Law Society, we are saying that it is important that we, first of all, start and ask the government to implement the recommendations made in the report by the Commission of Inquiry into Land Matters, led by Justice Catherine Bamugerere. I think that is the starting point, that we have had a Commission of Inquiry into these land matters, and it is important that at least the starting point should be implementing this report, or for the cabinet and executive to be able to consider this report and be able to implement it. We continue to have issues of illegal arrests and detentions, and as Uganda Law Society, we continue to appeal to the government that if anyone has committed a crime, it is important that their rights are respected. They should be guaranteed the rights under the Constitution, and they shouldn't be taken to ungazetted places. They should have a right to a lawyer, and these rights should necessarily be respected. So it is important for us to continue to highlight the issue of illegal arrests and detention. There is also the issue of overcrowding in prisons. I think this is something that we have continued to highlight, that currently today you have an occupancy rate of which is over 371.6%. This is very important because the numbers in the prisons, can you imagine, the percentage is over 300%. So we need to look at other ways of punishment, other alternative ways of punishment to be able to deal with these numbers, but also to look at the whole justice system to see what we can do in order to reduce the number of people in prison. So it is important the court also considers non-custodial sentences as viable alternatives to prison detention. In the minimum, these are important things that we need to do. Number two, we also acknowledge the efforts of the judiciary in creating new courts. We have acknowledged that, but it's important that we need to have a comprehensive national strategy that will respond to local circumstances and alternative responses to crime. That will be very key. Members, during the quarter, there were also significant bills that came before Parliament that were able to contribute to. And we have listed some of them in the report, and we have highlighted them. But it's also important to highlight the fact that it's important that we pass the National Legal Aid Bill. This is very important for legal aid services. And I can tell you that as Uganda Law Society, we are facing a challenge ever since the exit of DGF. It is important that the National Legal Aid Bill is considered by Parliament and passed. Of course, the other important bill we continue to highlight is the Human Rights Defenders Protection Bill. The Witness Protection Bill also should be quickly dealt with. So during the quarter, these are the issues that we have raised, and we're only looking at from January to March. I need to be very clear, January to March. We report after every quarter. So these are the issues we have raised, which are important in terms of the rule of law environment that we currently have in this country. So allow me conclude with these remarks and the presentation of the report, which we have highlighted here. I think the report should be distributed. Where's the report? For further details and the analysis that we have done, please refer to the report. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to present our report. Thank you.
His Excellency, thank you very much. That was as succinct as it can be for a whole quarter's report. This is the first report for this year, for the first quarter, although it is the 28th report of the Uganda Law Society. So he did a good job. It is time for plenary, but I am aware that people came at different times. I've took it for granted, like people know me, but I'm very sorry. I'm called Aaron Chiza. I'm one of the members of Uganda Law Society. I'm happy that many dignitaries really are now part of this. And especially I want to say that the former head of the Uganda Human Rights Commission is within our midst. I don't know that she wants to wave to the people of Uganda. Yes. I'll continue highlighting a few other dignitaries as time goes on, but you realize that the president talked about that the Uganda Law Society is not merely critical, it also gives the positive sides of rule of law. That was a very important message from the president, and he started with it. Then he went to the high court circuits, which have been created by the judiciary. We all know the importance of an independent judiciary in fostering rule of law in a country. He alluded to the police annual crime report and explained it the way he did. And he decried continuing military trials of civilians. And that is something that I'm also very keenly against as a human rights defender and also as a member of law society. We cannot afford to have two decisions of the Constitutional Court condemning trials of civilians in military courts, and the military continues as if there is nothing happening. And we expect from our military discipline, and that defiance of court orders is not part of discipline. So I hope the military chiefs in the room can take the message to the CDF to start with obeying court orders and obeying our constitution, so that civilians like me do not have to be tried in courts martial, but are tried by courts which are impartial, competent, and fair process. The courts martial are really not courts in a sense of courts. They are tribunals and they are disciplinary committees. Simplify them. They are supposed to discipline military people for disciplinary offenses. So it is the traverse of injustice that we have them purporting, pretending to try civilians when we know that they are actually not trying them. They are just persecuting them. And like George would tell you, if he was to be given the mic, though I'm not about to, he would tell you that they have been there for years without trial, and that even the reasons they are giving for denying civilians bail are really not reasons at all. I had to dwell on that. The other point was illegal service awards. A lot has been said about them in the press, but the president was very clear on how you can even give a legal service award. It's not that you can't give a service award, but there's a process, and the Law Society demands that that process be followed. He condemned harassment of social media activists, and here I have to recall that the Spire has been threatened no less than once, to give an example, but he's by no means the only one. Environmental degradation that the president touched on is really rampant. We are losing wetlands in Uganda at an alarming rate. We are also using forests at an alarming rate. And all this in the midst of a climate crisis, which has most recently should have been witnessed by the searing, sizzling temperatures around Kampala. I hope if there are some climate skeptics in this room, they would have been educated by the temperatures that we have recently been witnessed, and hopefully we can wake up to do things that actually help us cope with the climate crisis. And the easiest we can do as Uganda are nature-based solutions. We just need to keep our wetlands, we need to preserve our forests, we need to take care of nature so that we can better cope and answer things like floods, droughts, and heightening temperatures. Land disputes, you heard the president talk about them. You heard of illegal arrests and detentions. This thing of illegal detentions is always recurring. I don't know why. Overcrowding in prisons, he gave suggestions. He talked about the bills and the ones pending, like the Human Rights Defenders Bill, the Legal Aid Bill, and the Witness Protection Bill. The Legal Aid Bill is very important because people are entitled to fundamental human rights, and they cannot access human rights without they need lawyers to help them access these rights. And these lawyers need to pay bills. That's why the lawyers need to be paid in order to represent indigent people to access justice If a lawyer cannot pay rent where they are staying or where they are working, they will not be able to provide the service. So someone must pay a bill so that the citizen of Uganda can enjoy their right to personal liberty, their right to life, their right to education, to enforce them. So, thank you very much. So I was concluding with the bills, and legal aid is very important because access to justice is one of the animating features of rule of law. Without access to justice, and we can't access justice without the aid, with the legal aid. That said, we are supposed to be diving into the plenary, but we have amended the, hopefully with your consent, we are amending the program so that we launch the report and discuss it after we have launched it. And assuming that the silence means yes, especially in a room with dignitaries, diplomats, and lawyers who are known to speak for themselves and object loudly when they mean it, I urge the chief prosecutor of this country, the representatives of police, the representatives of the military, the representatives of the diplomatic corps, one of whom I can see and remember very well, and to come forward and help us launch this wonderful report. And of course, the president of the Uganda Law Society, His Excellency Bernard Oundo, and he's going to lead by example and march forward in a bespectacled fashion and get hold of that report and urge his fellow dignitaries to come forward and yes, there is a dummy report, but there are also real reports like this one. I hope they have given you examples, rather copies. Yes, that's quite, you see, our department of graphics is doing a very good job. So, meanwhile, I hope you have perused the report, at least the introduction. Even if you do the executive summary or the president's message for now, then read it later. Yes, the DPP, the police. Guys, do you see how police people are smart? Really? This is exemplary. You are sure that the man is going to keep law and order by just looking at him. You see how the military man is very disciplined, even humble. You have to like this. His Excellency, a long time. Yes. So yes, and that is Madame Sekaja, who never grows old. I don't know what her tactic is. Yes. Yes, so the president signs. Do you want to say some things? And that's the launch. Get him the mic. And
take the opportunity, together with all our stakeholders, to launch the Rule of Law report for the quarter ending March 2024. At this point,
clap our hands. And he signs, and the dignitaries smile for the camera, and we also join them in the smiling. Yeah, because
I'll I'll invite my lord, the Director of Public Prosecution.
So whoever is in front, they are going to take turns in signing as an indicia of their endorsement of this report, as well as the recommendations, and as a promise to fulfill them.
Can I call upon
Thank you.
the representative,
The
Margaret Sekaja, Doctor.
former chairperson of the
Former
Uganda
chairperson
Human
of
Rights
the Uganda
Commission
Human Rights
appends her
Commission.
signature. Thank you, Margaret. So you people, this is how big people sign, eh?
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Doctor. Now pull up on the representative of the UPDF.
The people that defend us. You see, Uganda is rarely attacked because they fear these guys. Eh? Our military is strong. You can't just attack us.
Representative of the Uganda Police Force. If I go to our diplomatic corps. Yeah.
To prevent and detect crime is signing the report. And you can be sure there will be no crime in this room while he is here. Thank you very much.
Can I ask
Gumira,
our ambassador?
the ambassador of the Federal Republic of the German. Yeah. The biggest
Can I also ask the
economy in
representative
Europe.
of the Uganda Law Reform Commission, please come.
Thank you, His Excellency.
We also have the head of Legal Uganda Prisons. We're talking about overcrowding.
Yeah.
Yes.
With that signature, you can be sure that overcrowding will soon be history.
Yes. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. We also have the Uganda Law Reform Commission here.
Thank you.
We're talking about legal aid. We have the head of justice centers. Please also come and sign. You have to sign because we are speaking for you now.
Before you went to Justice Centers, he was in Uganda Law
He was
Society,
informed that he was the treasurer of the Uganda
dealing
Law
with
Society.
our money directly.
Yeah.
And clearly you can see,
Yeah.
he has never been the same again.
So if you want a refund of your membership, he's here. You can ask and say during that time when you're treasurer, please. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming. The report is launched. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. And with the report launched, I have no doubt that now we can discuss it. We are discussing an official report of the Uganda Law Society, properly launched by various representatives of government agencies and civil society and the diplomatic corps. It cannot be more official than that. So you heard the president speak, you saw the big people endorse the report, and you even had this, what I would call a long summary of it that I gave. Who will speak first about this report? Ideally, these kinds of reports, they are discussed better when we start with the ladies, with women. A woman raises her hands and gets the mic and speaks about this report. Let me see. Law reform, I can see you are very ready to comment on the report. Not only did you sign, but you want to give your insight. Of course, as a legal reformer, this is really your playground. And it is, who is passing the mic around? I need someone to pass the mic around. Yes. Yes, in the corner. Next, the one in blue. You're not ready? Oh, a few minutes. Okay. So who is ready to speak about the report? Because really, oh, sure.
Thank you. The President, Uganda Law Society, diplomats, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm by names of William Kagaba, and I'm the patron of the Rule of Law Club of Gayaza High School. I'm also a law student at Makere. Yes, we have commented about this law report. The President had talked about so many issues, and my concern is that all these issues we are talking about in today's report, we talked about them sometimes back, and they seem to be continuing issues. Congestion in prisons, the military not honoring court decisions, and the rest. All these issues have been there, and we are talking about them. And probably in the next quarterly report, we are also going to talk about the same issue. It appears what we talk about is ignored, and probably the government is not honoring advice from the Uganda Law Society. So there is something that needs to be done. Main is about the rule of law clubs that are in the report. And I thank the Uganda Law Society for having made that initiative of establishing rule of law clubs. And I think Uganda Law Society has to come down to our schools so that we start teaching our younger people about the importance of the law, because those are the leaders of tomorrow. We strengthen the clubs in schools. We go deep into society. We start bringing up a generation that respects law, a generation that respects the human rights, a generation that knows what the law is. And probably tomorrow we shall have a transformed society and generation. That is my calling. Uganda Law Society, please strengthen our club. I'm happy that the Makere Law Society is here. We strengthen such a club, and we strengthen clubs in schools so that we have a generation that is transformed, and tomorrow it is going to respect the rule of law. Otherwise, we seem to be at crossroads with our generation that even court decisions cannot be respected, and tomorrow we are going to have the same song. Thank you very much.
Most welcome. I'm requesting George. George should come forward. We are requesting people to be coming forward, actually taking the podium, so that what we say can reverberate in Chisoro, Kabaramaido. At least the technical advice is that effect. We want, this is being covered by the media, and George, don't you want to be?
I wish I'm protected from bullying by the moderator. Good morning, friends. My name is George Msisi. I just have two comments regarding the report. I thank Uganda Law Society for the input that you have put in this report and the consistency. My first comment is regarding the National Legal Aid Bill. We've been here several times on different occasions talking about the National Legal Aid Bill, and it's about time that we know, I don't know whether people appreciate their relationship between the National Legal Aid Bill and access to justice in this country. It's not enough for government to keep saying, we don't have money for this, don't have money for this. We need to push this cry to the citizens, to demand to the politicians. Sadly, I don't see any member of parliament in the room. I know there's a group which has consistently pushed for this, but it has not got enough traction, especially on the business of parliament. I realized that at some point in the 10th parliament, this was one of those bills which had then been passed. Then what happened was retrogression and back to zero. So I think we just need to do more pushing regarding the National Legal Aid Bill. Secondly, and my last point, of course, also the continued trial of civilians in the AME courts, AME tribunals, as we may call them. The president cited the issue of the judgment in Amon, Captain Amon Biarugaba. We got two very good judgments from the Constitutional Court, and only one was stayed. We know the judgment in Kabaziguruka was stayed, but secondly, and most importantly, the lead decision of Justice Musoke, and I hope law reform got time to study this. It was even further advancing the argument in Kabaziguruka, because court said the Constitution gave only one arm the function of administration of justice, which is the judiciary, and that the functions of the UPDF in the Constitution don't include administration of justice. So it was wrong for Parliament to enact an act which gave powers to the UPDF, which powers were never given by the Constitution. And I think there should even be efforts of amending the UPDF Act in that regard, because that judgment was instructive that the Constitution has never given UPDF powers to administer justice. So I think this doesn't even only apply to civilians, because we should also start examining the quality of justice that even armed officers got. I know Justice Kakuru talked about them in Kabaziguruka, but the point of that even armed officers, if you look at the offenses which even carry the death penalty, or even life imprisonment, and they're at the mass of division court martials and so on and so forth. So beyond even this, what we are doing to civilians, but even for the soldiers. So I think we just need a whole discussion and a whole examination of military justice. Even if it's to be left to the army, can we have some bit of qualifications for when they are administering justice to even the soldiers themselves? Because I remember Justice Kakuru mentioned that even soldiers themselves cannot get a fair trial, but at least for them, they have taken some bit of oath. And of course, when it comes to civilians, it's even worse, because it's increasingly being used for different offenses. So I think that is something that we need to keep pushing, and I think that ULS has continued to advocate for this issue. I thank you, sir.
Most welcome, George. There was a philosopher who said that every man should marry, that no man should go unpunished. I think every lawyer should do a case in the court martials. There is no lawyer who should be there that for him they have not brushed with the court martial kind of justice, so that they understand why there should be no civilians being tried in a court martial. I don't know whether law reform is finally ready. I urge you to come forward so that we have wide coverage of your questions or comments, and this will be the first lady offering remarks regarding this report. We are deeply delighted, Madam.
Thank you. I am not going to be able to give all the comments that I will give, but my name is Doris Akidi, and I work with Uganda Law Reform Commission. And the Commission's mandate basically is to ensure that the laws of Uganda are up to date, so that the society is able to live by the rules that the state expects them to run by. Now, I'll just make a comment on the laws that have been proposed that are here in the report. The first one, first I want to say that Uganda Law Reform Commission does not have the only mandate to make laws or make proposals for legislation in this country. So there are legislations that go into Parliament that are actually initiated by other institutions, and the only way that the Uganda Law Reform Commission has the opportunity to have a peep into the legislation proposed is when Parliament maybe calls upon the Law Reform Commission to make an input. So I have not had an opportunity to look at the legal aid bill. It hasn't yet come before us, but if it does, then I'll be able to make a comment to that. However, the sexual offences bill, this bill is a penal provision for the law, and the Uganda Law Reform Commission made made proposals to have the penal code repealed and replaced by a new law. Yeah, so the sexual offences bill is one of the provisions that has been included into the penal code. So we can have a holistic penal laws that covers all the penal provisions that the government wants to govern this country. And then the Witness Protection Bill, this is a bill that was proposed by the Commission. The Uganda Law Reform Commission undertook a study a couple of years back and made these proposals in 2015. Up to today, this bill is with the Attorney General's chambers, and we are waiting for the Attorney General's chambers to take further actions to have this bill placed before Parliament so that it can be made into law. In as far as the marriage bill is concerned, the marriage bill, the Uganda Law Reform Commission also looked at the marriage bill when it was first proposed, yeah, and I think in 2017, 2018, the minister then came back to the Uganda Law Reform Commission and asked the commission to look into the bill and see what proposals can be made to revise the whole movement into amending the Marriage Act. And the Uganda Law Reform Commission did make proposals. That's why we came up with the marriage bill. In this marriage bill, I think the key thing was to remove off aspects of cohabitation and strictly make it be a bill that deals with marriages, the different forms of marriages as recognized by the country. Except also in this bill, I think at that point in time, the Muslim community were not so comfortable with certain provisions in the bill. So in this marriage bill, the provisions for marriage under the Muslim laws were left out. So that is what I know about this bill currently, and most of them are still at the office of the Attorney General's chambers, and I hope they'll move further from there, but that is what I have to say for now. Allow me to look further into the report, and then maybe I'll contribute again later on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You can see why I was very keen on her presentation. I want to advise us, the Law Society, to give them a copy of the legal aid bill so that they don't wait for Parliament to make their input. Once they have it, they can generate their input, and we need to fast track the legal aid bill. It has really taken a lot of time without seeing the light of day. Who else is going to talk about the 28th URS Rule of Law report? We request you stand up, march forward. Of course, when I come Ivan Bowe, I knew you'd speak. I knew. I just don't know what you're going to say. But please.
What I'm going to say are my views. So, good morning. My name is Bowe Ivan of the Republic. And one, I am a little sad that the head prosecutors left the room, but I think the message shall be conveyed. The overcrowding in our prisons, to some extent, is a responsibility of the police and the resident attorneys, the state attorneys in the different stations. I have noted in this practice that many files are sanctioned without even enough evidence, not even satisfying two ingredients of a crime. And also, our criminal justice system currently is being used to solve civil matters. I got a soft loan from A, and then I didn't pay, and therefore it somehow gravitates into obtaining money by false pretense. And I think this should end, because so long as we have, now at times it's customary to remand people. It has become customary to remand people to prisons, to put more pressure to settle civil disputes. And I think this, with the police and the DPP, this has to be worked on.
it has to come to an end. Otherwise, it makes us look ugly. The other issue I cannot live without talking about is the trial of civilians in army courts. Is illegal. I also want to state in the most clearest terms that it is unprofessional, because no crime whatsoever the allegation might be charged on those in the court martial is not catered for in our civilian statutes and in our penal system. Possession of firearms, explosives, everything can be traced in either the independent laws or in the penal code. Therefore, I also add my voice to say that this is not prosecution, because in the first place it's illegal. It is political persecution. I also want to stretch it a bit further when it comes to social media, harassment of social media activists. No one should be harassed for their opinion. No one should be harassed for their views about any politician, about the systems, because that is a civic duty. And any civilized citizen should rather encourage it. That said, I must note that in the recent past, in the few weeks, I've been a victim, not of harassment, because they cannot harass me anyway, but I have been a victim of death threats over my views. People using social media to say, Ivan, we are going to use a surgical blade on you, and also link me a bit to others that have been victims of either gun violence. In the same realm, as we fight harassment of activists, we should also equally be equipped not to facilitate crime on social media. And I think as Uganda Law Society, we need to strike that balance so that the culprits are brought to book. It's not okay to harass anyone for their views. It is not civic or even legal to threaten someone's life. I have done my part. I want to report to members that I have done my part in response to death threats, not insults. Insults are okay. To the death threats that arose out of my views that I continue to espouse and speak broadly. Thank you.
Ivan, I disagree with some of your views, but I would defend them to death. Your right to air them, should be no doubt, and I really sympathize with you. I don't know why our society is becoming very intolerant, because people should be able to disagree agreeably. We should be able to disagree, because this social discourse is an alternative to barbarism. There was a time and age whereby differences in opinion were settled by fire, sometimes by fighting, but we are in the 21st century, fellow Ugandans, and we need to accept that we can't agree. And that's how God designed us, that we disagree. Actually, God is happy when we disagree. For us, we may not be happy, but God is happy that we are disagreeing. It's evidence that we are thinking, and there is a diversity of thought and perceptions. So sorry, my comrade Ivan, about those. We can't take death threats very lightly.
Good morning, good people. Semwemba Simon is my name. I work with the International Rescue Committee, IRC. And one of the things that stood out in the report was congestion in prisons. And I would love to bring to your attention one vulnerable category of people that stand out, and those are the refugees. A number of refugees, as they come into this country, probably they come alone running away from conflict. And when they're trying to access justice, one of the conditions or some of the conditions for grant of bail is having a known place of abode or probably substantial sureties. And many times, a number of them probably do not have substantial sureties, or many of their colleagues fear to come in court to probably stand for them as sureties. One incident was in Machinde that we came across where a magistrate actually wanted, when the refugee had probably had their stay in prison and they wanted to probably let them go, but they had no place. And all they had to do was, again, take them back to prison. So I urge the justice players present, as well as the Uganda Law Society, while working also in this report and carrying out the various investigations and research, to also consider the persons in the refugee community. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Simon. Again, I have had the opportunity of representing a few refugees, so I understand your refugees are really vulnerable persons, and I hope jail sector can understand when dealing with refugees that they are vulnerable persons. The other big thing that really faces refugees is if they are coming from a country. I will not go there. Do we have another question? Yes. I urge you to come forward so that.
Good morning. I think mine is a short one. On Human Rights Defenders Protection Bill. We did a lot of lobbying. We did a lot of sensitization. We engaged parliamentarians all over. We took them all over the country. The bill was about to be passed when the term of parliament expired. And now we have to reintroduce it again. What do you call the word? When the bill expires in parliament, and we have to reintroduce it. We have to table it again. So you see, the work we put in was enormous. There were quite a number of organizations involved, the Human Rights Center, National Coalition, Chapter 4. All of them spent money. We were spending money to really do all this sensitization of members of parliament. So now, how do we proceed? Because the funds which were used initially were too much. And now we have to start again. So anyone who is willing to help us, either Uganda Law Society, we start again. If you have some funds, we start again and retable the bill. But we have only, Parliament has another term of 2 years. It might be the same issue, but at least a lot of work was done. So I'm appealing to members who have a bit of funds to come and we team up together and we start the work again, because we need this bill. I think it's the same with the Human Rights Legal Aid Bill. They did a lot of lobbying and advocacy, but now, there again, it's not passed. The other issue I wanted to comment on is about civilians appearing in military courts. I remember the chairperson of the Uganda Human Rights Commission wrote to the court, and they still just continued. Do we call this defiance or disrespect? Why are we disrespecting our very own institutions? Yet, we should be working together. We should be, harmonizing what we do. But if we do that, that means you are disabling the other institution. You are telling the other institution, whatever you say, for us, we have more powers. So that's also my concern.
Thank you. It's called contempt. Any other question? Dorothy, you are smiling like you're about. Please come forward with that smile and deliver some remarks. Then after we shall have the official from prisons talk about the congestion and related matters.
Thank you so much. I think just to add on to what Madam Sekaja shared, I think the whole thing about human rights defenders, I'm from the National Coalition of Human Rights Defenders. There are many forms, there are many types of people that will come up to defend different issues, but there will be a misconception about the human rights defenders, the persons individually or in groups that come to talk about the issues of human rights. So if the bill is ignored, they will be labeled, they will be smear campaigned. And in this case, they will be misunderstood as opposition because that is the label, or saboteurs of government programs. So this bill comes in to support the different individuals who individually or with others promote and protect human rights. And also the fact that the world is going virtual. We are using a lot of virtual platforms in this regard. That means we are going to have a lot of people speaking up, exposure, and in this case, we need them to be protected, not to be labeled as just activists, because those are the names that are labeled to the different human rights defenders. And yet, what is the one thing they are trying to do? It is just to promote and protect human rights defenders. So that's just one of my point of emphasis, is we are going to have different people speak up, different people share different ideas about the promotion and protection of human rights. So they should not be labeled, they should not be misunderstood. Rather, the bill will help us popularize the concept of who a human rights defender is. In that way, it will also help the state and non-state actors appreciate and recognize the work of the different individuals, groups, organizations, and also to understand what is promotion and protection of human rights defenders. Thank you so much.
On behalf of the people, welcome. People, it's okay to be an opposition. It's okay to be activist. It's okay to be opposition lawyer. It's okay to be those things because they are legal, really. I don't know why people try to project them as if they are a problem. Those are not, they are the least of our problems. We are going to have a word from the forces, starting with prisons. Did you guys know that prisons are a force? They are just, okay. The prison service, the police service, and the defense force. In that, thank you for the guidance.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Natkunda Alio. I'm a commissioner of prisons, and I'd like to comment on overcrowding. I'd like to appreciate Uganda Law Society for capturing that as one of the areas in the report, because overcrowding is one of our major challenges in Uganda prison service. At the time the report was drafted, we had a population of 74,444. But by the end of March, which is that same quarter, we had 76,223. And the holding capacity remains the same. One of the recommendations that came out in the report is non-custodial sentences. But we also need to look at the breakdown of our population. The remands are 45 0.8% now. Convicts, 53.5%. And the debtors are 0.8%. And as that 0.8% translates into 581 debtors. That's not a small number for civil prisoners, 581. And when we look at non-custodial sentences, they point to the petty offenders. But in custody, we have 11,361 prisoners who are committals. Then 5,281 remands, and these ones are also on capital offenses. So that shows that we have a very, very high number of those committed and those who are on remand are on capital offenses. What does this mean? These won't benefit definitely from the non-custodial sentences. We need to look at the courts. Yes, we appreciate that the number of courts have increased, but we haven't seen an increase in the number of sessions, high court sessions. So we have prisoners languishing in prisons for a very, very long time as committals. And of course, after they've been committed, they just stay there and wait for the sessions. There's a development for having, I think, daily courts to handle the capital offenses, but this has not yet taken off. So maybe the one of the sessions should be addressed because it's what we have that is still in place. So if we have more high court sessions, then we are going to have the issue of these prisoners addressed. Thank you.
Welcome. There are countries which are looking for what to do with their prisons. For us here, we need more prisons, and very interesting. That is from prisons, and we have not been detained. Let's see whether with police we shall be arrested. Thank you.
Thank you, moderator. I'm Senior Superintendent of Police, Igumira Isaiah. I am the head of legal department at CID headquarters. Mr. President, greetings from our director CID. I want to thank you, all of you, for this engagement. My observations in this report, there are quite many, and I think we should have more time to discuss some of these things at length. But the most outstanding I can address is the issue of over-detention and illegal detentions. Over-detention actually is not a policy of the police. The CID where I come from, it is also not our policy. In fact, we have put stringent measures against our detectives who over-detain or who carry out illegal arrests. If you are to look at the causes of over-detention, perhaps it can come from premature arrests. More often than not, we have seen officers who carry out arrests prematurely. And we are addressing that as a department. We are carrying out training sessions so that before you carry out an arrest, at least a case file should have written a certain stage. And if you look at some of these causes, sometimes they are even brought by some of our lawyers in practice. These lawyers come to the police stations and hoodwink our detectives, our low-ranked detectives who are there at the stations. The person comes and says, I have a case here. If you don't arrest this person wants to run away. You help me. By the time they carry out arrests, they find that actually the lawyer had already got instruction fees from the other side. But we are trying to address that. Mr. President, as you know, we started engagements with the law society so that we can have open discussions. Because we cannot sit and look on when some illegal things are being done, irrespective of who. Look at this issue, moderator, you're talking about, of criminalizing civil cases. Still, it is not to our interest as the police or CID to criminalize civil cases. But you find it is the population. There are some people who like shortcuts. They come to these stations and still again hoodwink our detectives. They come and outline one offense in a transaction that seems to be criminal in nature. And these people take up some of these cases. But if you look at the details of this case, you find that actually it is purely civil. But we are really doing much as CID, as a directorate. There are some detectives we have actually even subjected to disciplinary proceedings for criminalizing civil cases. And some of these cases you find they are pure, loans, where they even classify them as obtaining money by false pretense. 2 weeks ago, we even approached the office of the DPP. If she was here, she would be my witness. We asked for the guidelines of what a case of obtaining money by false pretense should entail. And we want to send these circulars all over the country to our detectives. And perhaps law society, you can also come in and help us. So that we outline what amounts to a case of obtaining money by false pretense. Because when these lawyers also come to these police stations, when they don't open some of these cases, now they go complaining. CID has not helped me. Police has not helped me. But if you look at the details of the case, it is purely civil. So this is not a problem which can be answered singularly by our department, but once we put our heads together, we can resolve this. I also want to assure you that by the virtue of our mandate, we are the first human rights defenders actually. It is to my interest that human rights should be respected. But like any other institution, including yours, you will always have bad apples. Those ones, globally, they are there. Even in your homes, you have them. But you cannot say that because your child has done what you don't want him or her to do, it does not mean that you banish him or her. So we are putting mechanisms. Some are already there. We have disciplinary courts. So that we can address who is this who is violating the human rights of the fellow citizens. Because we don't want to be on record as a generation that spearheaded human rights violations. No. We want to be a generation that will be remembered for having registered their contribution positively to the transformation of the country. So to me, I think that where we go wrong, we are human, and there should be systems to condemn such actions. Because if you are in law enforcement, you have no right whatsoever for you to do things the other way, opposite. You should be accountable. We are putting up systems where people are going to be accountable. At CID, in 2 months to come, Mr. President, we shall invite you. We even want to launch a call center for the CID. Because we have realized that people need to register their complaints even in the comfort of their homes. People from very far. You don't have to come to CID headquarters. You don't have to get the number of the director CID. But there will be a call center which will be running 24 hours so that citizens can complain. And we shall put a mechanism that any complaint will be followed up, addressed, and feedback is given. If you look at the mandate of the police to detect and prevent crime, we don't have to wait for case to be reported at only. A person who has complained on phone, his issue should be addressed. And I think with that, our officers down there will know that the citizens are there seeing and they can call. We shall have a toll-free line which will be launched to the public so that you can call anytime. We shall even put an email. If you have a complaint, you write. And we shall be able to be accountable. And you will also advise us on how we should move. So this is a partnership. We are in the same country. If there is anarchy or if there is insecurity, it will not spare security personnel and only affect lawyers. No, it would affect all of us. So it is in our interest that we need to sit, put our heads together, and we make sure we put everything in order. So, moderator, I think I'll get more time and we have more discussions on how we can improve. Last time when we were launching the other previous report, I requested, Mr. President, if there can be some lawyers who can do pro bono, they can come and teach our detectives some of these laws, and you can give them marks the other side. Because why should you keep lamenting when you have a contribution you can make? So that today we say, Chiza, you go to CPS and teach detectives on this act. So and so go to Kabare, so and so go to Kabiramaido, so and so. So that when these people are equipped with knowledge, of course, ignorance of the law is not a defense, but we can say that training is always continuous. No one can stop learning, no one can pretend that or assume that he or she has studied much not to add any training. So if you help us, Mr. President, in that, for us, our people are always there. To reduce costs, we can use our police stations so that people can study some of these things. So in the future, we don't have excuses of I didn't know this, I didn't know that. And with that, we can collectively build our country. I thank you.
Most welcome. You have spoken very well. The ideas are very welcome and we shall cooperate with the president. The idea of a call center is very interesting, especially if it is followed through seriously with the feedback mechanism working properly. It's very good. Email, very good. Because email is even better because when I complain, I have my own record of my complaint and I start from there. So it's all nice. And without losing momentum, we are now going to the force which does not apologize for being a force, and which by being a force is very good for that purpose. Because I've already told you, for us, no country dares attack us. They know. So Afande, the platform is yours. I request you to come here so that even other Ugandans who have the benefit of tuning into this discussion can enjoy your insights. Thank you very much.
Thank you, moderator. Mr. President, allow me to stand in the protocol that has already been observed. You know, we are a disciplined army, so we must recognize our superiors. We are subordinate to civilian authority, so we must respect you. Greetings from the Uganda People's Defense Forces. Uganda peoples, you are the people. And our role is to defend you. We want to thank you, Mr. President, and the Law Society for consistently inviting us. We know as a fact that it is premised on the knowledge that we are stakeholders in this, and we are in this together. So it is not something we take for granted. We really want to thank you for consistently inviting us for such an engagement, to which we attach a lot of value. Ladies and gentlemen, before I respond to something that is making people intolerant, I want to report to you another achievement we have had in the Uganda People's Defense Forces that has a direct connection to this, is that we are becoming more professional, and we launched the establishment just recently. So, Mr. President, when you are inviting us next time, the nomenclature has changed. If you are inviting the Chief of Legal Services, it is now Joint Staff Legal Services. So you just write JSLS, Joint Staff Legal Services. So should you be inviting me, I forgot to introduce myself. I am Colonel Deo Karikona. I'm the head of human rights in the Uganda People's Defense Forces. So should you be inviting me, you write JSPC-human rights. Originally, I was human rights. It has now changed. So we are undergoing, of course, professionalization to fit within the constitutional imperatives so that we serve you better. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to remind you that the Uganda People's Defense Forces and the entire force, we are a force born out of a revolution. You all know that. You know where we have come from. And some things to do with obedience, discipline, rule of law, and human rights are some of the fundamental values really that we stand for. So it shouldn't be taken that we have now changed it to something different. This is still what we stand for. I want to respond to the part of the report where you are accusing us of trying as civilians in the court martial. The moderator here said that he doesn't know why society is becoming intolerant. And little did he know that he was part of the people who are becoming intolerant. True, society is becoming intolerant. The issue of trial of civilians in the court martial is a matter that is pending before the Supreme Court. We did not go to the General Court Martial. We did not take it to another court. We did not get guns as it should have been in the past when we had that kind of decision. The right platform, the right forum is the Supreme Court. Let us be tolerant. Let us avoid emotions into this, however compelling the reasons may be. Let us be tolerant. Let the Supreme Court pronounce itself on the matter. We shall follow what the Supreme Court will say. I want you to be patient. We believe in the rule of law. The matter was taken to the right platform, which is the Supreme Court. Security is guaranteed. The Supreme Court is working. It is in session every day. Court will pronounce itself on the matter, and we shall follow the decision of the Supreme Court. I want to assure you of this. As the Uganda People's Defense Forces, I want to assure you that we remain committed to ensuring the rule of law, observance of human rights, and I just want to make you know that there are not so many armies in the world that have a Directorate of Human Rights. I've traveled and I'm yet to find another service that has the Directorate of Human Rights. So this is evidence of how much attachment we have to the rule of law, human rights, and all these other values that we stand for. Let's be tolerant. The Supreme Court is in session. Let's have a ruling from the Supreme Court. We shall abide by the ruling of the Supreme Court.
Most welcome. Yeah, the message to the Supreme Court couldn't have been clearer. As they are in session, this is one of the decisions that they need to deal with. This is one of the decisions they need to deal with. So we are going to have something from the Uganda Human Rights Commission. Thereafter, we shall get something from the diplomatic community and then from JEROS in that order, the Uganda Human Rights Commission.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kiza. Good morning to us all, Mr. President, and all protocol observed as previously mentioned. My name is Pauline Nansamba Mutumba. I am a Principal Human Rights Officer, Legal, with the Uganda Human Rights Commission, and I'm here representing my Director, Complaints, Investigations, and Legal Services. Mr. President, I'd like to thank you and your team. I believe we are partners in this work, so we thank you so much for this report, for documenting. I know sometimes we take documenting for granted, but documenting, in my view, is the first accountability that we have, and ink never washes away. There are many issues to respond to, but I would just like to highlight two. One is on the issue of refugees. Just by way of updating this meeting, that Uganda Human Rights Commission is currently in the process of conducting monitoring of border posts with support from GIZ, and we are focusing on refugees as vulnerable persons and the issues that are impacting them. So just to say that this is an issue that Uganda Human Rights Commission is also concerned about, and will be monitoring and providing a report on that. Then in relation to the issue of missing persons, I see at page 18, the report highlights that Uganda Human Rights Commission, among others, have failed to account for the whereabouts of the missing persons. I believe this is a bit of a slight misrepresentation, because I see somewhere else you have highlighted that we did conduct an investigation, and and you've highlighted the findings of the report. But what I wanted to highlight is that since this matter was taken to court, we have actually received a copy of a request for instructions from Attorney General's chambers. We've been copied in, and we are providing whatever support Attorney General's chambers will need in form of the information that we collected in the process of our investigations to support the Attorney General in responding to this matter. And just to say that we remain committed, even concerning because there's that conception that there are those that were found not to be existing, and then there are those that were found to be within the process, within court process. So I just would like to request our partners that let us work on this collectively and report on this issue accurately. I know that it is a very emotive issue, but just to say that as Uganda Human Rights Commission, we are an oversight body. Our responsibility is to hold the different responsibility centers accountable, and to let the public know that this is what we have found, and we believe that we have done that to the best of our ability, and we call upon all other stakeholders, including Parliament, to continue to demand for accountability. I thank you very much.
Most welcome. Thank you for doing your work, and to quote you to the best of your ability. I request His Excellency, the Ambassador of the German Federal Republic, to come and represent the diplomats, and yeah.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I have absolutely no mandate from the diplomatic community. I'm standing here as Ambassador of Germany, who is interested in following what is going on in Uganda, especially in the field of human rights. I'm a lawyer myself by training. I have a license to practice in Germany, but what I'm really interested in is how this judicial system functions, how the police interact with other security officers. CID, for instance, I think they've changed their name now. No, what is it? CMI, exactly. When I came here almost 4 years ago, I was quite surprised at how powerful they are and what they do and where there is accountability and where there isn't. Just 2 points. One, the lady in gray already mentioned documentation. I think this is a very valuable service that you are doing here. Just summing up what has gone wrong, what has gone right, where is action needed. And the other aspect is dialogue. I feel that in some forces there's a lot of goodwill, but you can only move forward together. And I think this is a very valuable forum for going out and reaching out to other institutions and just explaining what has happened, why it has happened, and what you plan to do in the future. Concerning prisons, I was privileged to be part of what is called the Prison Project. Concerning plea bargaining, I was in Masindi prison and in Mbarara prison, and I was quite impressed by the high professionality of the prison services and the positive and quite relaxed atmosphere, which I do not know from most German prisons, for instance. Between the wardens and the inmates. So I think that is also an area that deserves a lot of support. Thank you very much.
Most welcome. Next, Jeros. Musa is in our midst. Not the biblical Musa, the Ugandan Musa. He would say things that you will automatically know that he has been working with Jeros for a while and that he's a gifted communicator. See how gently he moves. You can't rush him. He never panics. He just communicates. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is Musa Mudoy. I work with the Governance and Security Program Secretariat, what was formerly referred to as the JELO Secretariat. I'm privileged to be part of this congregation. I would like to stand on the protocol recognized earlier on. And I take serious note of the comments, the recommendations from Your Excellency the Ambassador, members of the diplomatic corps, representatives of the different public institutions, and the non-state actors. One of the things I have as a conviction, personal and professionally, is that we have one country to fix, and it's our country to better, because we owe it to our grandchildren. We owe our grandchildren an obligation to pass over a Uganda better than that we inherited. And it's not just a Uganda. The world now is a global village. Not now, it has been a global village for a long time. Events occur in Ukraine impact the people in Gisenyi. Events that occur in Gaza impact the people in Moroto, and the other way around. When we have Ebola breakout in the western or northern parts of the country, the other parts of the world catch a shiver. And in the terrain of rule of law, it's not any different. I'm glad, and I would like for the record to thank the Uganda Law Society for being consistent. In 2007, I was working with Danida, the Danish International Development Agency, when the Uganda Law Society approached us to start commemorating, documenting, and discussing issues of rule of law. The day that was chosen was the day just before the the commemoration of the Uganda independence. That is the 9th. Independence is on the 9th, and the preferred day was the 8th. So it started as an annual series. I'm glad it has grown to a quarterly reflection process. And as JELOS, we are proud to associate and support this process because of the importance that it lends out there. There's been an evolution in the quality and scope of the reports. And I would like to thank the Law Society. And I would also like to thank those that contribute. I won't stop at thanking. I'll also implore us to deepen the content. We had gotten to a point where we were regurgitating newspaper clippings. We were getting closer to journalists. But I think we've picked up a bit more, and I would like to encourage us to go further and beyond that. I'm not trying to avoid the substantive issues raised here, because the frontline institutions have commented, and I would like to associate with the comments of the lead institutions for which we coordinate. For us as a secretariat, we are very interested in the collective, and we've taken note of the issues emerging from this dialogue. And Your Excellency, the President, you know that on an annual basis, we sit around and come up with a priority list of where should we focus. And part of the outcomes of these discussions shape that priority list. So I would like to commit here that several of the issues that we are fronting as priorities are issues that are going to form our interest priority list. I'll give you an example. We have the Justice Centers Uganda, and I'm glad the national coordinator is here, Mr. Aaron Besige. This is a project of the JELOS. It emerged as a response to the need. For a long time, the prison facility, Kabarie, that has been labeled a political prison. Chitalia, sorry, not Kabarie. Kabarie is the police training school. Chitalia. Chitalia is a product of JELOS responding to a congestion concern. The programming and the planning we are now having from a human rights lens is that we should have chitalias in all regions of the country, relieve the congestion. But there is one challenge. The cost is high. The national pass is constrained. We are forever grateful to the development partners that contribute to these development causes. We would like to move faster than we do. We would like to launch a Chitalia after 1 year. For many of you, you've seen the justice centers around, that central one-stop points around the country. Those are products of the JELOS caucus. We would like to have each one of them in each district. But with the resource constraints, our progress is quite slow. So let's be patient on some fronts. You can't wait and say let's postpone addressing congestion. But we are trying to come up with alternative ways of relieving the facility. Community service, among others. Plea bargain was an innovation in that sense to try and create room for faster traction and delivery. The enhancement of the numbers on the bench so that you have more matters handled quite faster and so on and so forth. It's a development trajectory, and unfortunately the wheels of change move slower. My last point and perhaps comment, under the current development programming system, government has adopted a program-based approach. We've moved away from sectors. Rule of law is a core business of the governance and security program. And this is what we coordinate. I would like to invite stakeholders, the non-state actors, the law society analysts to pick more interest in that programming sense. And as a collective, how can we continue to make strides, positive strides, and own the benefit at the end of the day collectively? As I noted, it's not only a national issue, but we're a global village. So we need to piggy bank some jurisdictions. We need to look at what are the priorities we are pushing, and we need to have consensus on what priorities as a country we move forward. Otherwise, I thank you for the opportunity. We take note of the issues that have been raised here, be it on the legislative front. I started working on the issues of having a legal aid bill and policy in 2009. But I'm still patient that we shall have it come through. The Public Defenders Protection Bill has taken some time. We need to synergize and identify what are the barriers, what can wait, and how do we sequence. I was sharing with the Council, George Musisi, that sometimes in our aspiration for better, we focus so much on outcomes and we forget process and input. We can come here and compare indices. Take the example of corruption and say Denmark is much better. Why are we not like Denmark? We're on the same earth. But Denmark started to turn its tide on corruption in 1694. 1694. But you want to have the same outcomes as that jurisdiction. Let's focus on process. Let's sequence right. Okay? You'll discover that most of the deficits will ask for a financial input where we fall short. Let's work with our context and tailor our solutions to our circumstances. Let's measure our ambition, and I'm positive we shall get there. Your Excellency, once again, thank you for the consistency. Thank you for the documentation. We take note of the recommendations, and we shall jointly continue to work to a better agenda and rule of law in Uganda. Thank you.
Most welcome. He's very positive we shall get there. And one of the things to take away from his speech is whatever you're doing, you need to ask yourself what the impact is for the future generations. The decision you're making, its impact. Is that what you would want your grandchildren, your children, or the grandchildren of your friends, in case you decide not to give birth? Is that the future you want for them? That's very, very, very key. So we still have some time, but I think we are about to wrap it up. So in case you are about to escape, please don't escape. Let's listen to a few people and then we wrap it up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, colleagues. I'll stand on the protocol which has previously been laid out. My name is Beatrice Mulindwa, and I work at UN Women as the Access to Justice Specialist. And mine is really an observation and I guess a comment as well. So in terms of rule of law, I would like this quarterly bulletin to focus, to have an analysis on those vulnerable groups that are regularly victims of either absence of rule of law or abuse of rule of law. And here, my special focus will be on women and girls, yeah? For the past 5 annual crime police reports, offenses, sexual offenses have been among the top 5. So that says something.
there's something there about the rule of law. And then if you look also at the case backlog in judiciary, GBV cases form a significant proportion. And when I was just also looking at the bills which you have identified that are long due for enactment, the National Legal Aid Bill, Uganda Law Society will tell you or just see you how many of their clients are women, what proportion women constitute of their clients. Sexual offences bill, who are the victims? Who are 80% of the victims? Witness protection, who is that going to target majorly? And then the marriage bill, who is suffering from these marriages which are not well regulated in this country of ours? So for me, this is a challenge and a recommendation to Uganda Law Society to really look into it. I hope one of your next bulletins this year will focus on that analysis of those things. So just to say thank you very much for these sessions, which give us an opportunity to really assess the rule of law in this country. And I hope that this is something that continues. And also just to say that Uganda Law Society is a partner of UN Women and will certainly work with them. Thank you very much.
When you hear from UN, we are very close to the end. And the issues were really very critical. Women, it's about vulnerability. We need the legal aid bill, because without the legal aid bill, these vulnerable people, women, refugees, persons with disabilities, name them, children, they will continue to suffer without hope. If I can have 2 more people, then we shall go into a group photo and then we call it quits and we say, of course, how could we move out of here without hearing from the mouthpiece of the baby of Jairus, justice centers. Yeah. The man seeing us in money, through money. Yeah, so we have some funeral service. We have to quicken this. So it's him, 1 or 2 comments from online, then we have a photo and rush to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I have 3 concerns. I want us in the next report to have an analysis of the past reports that we have issued, for us to know what action point has been taken, and if any, what can we do? The second, Mr. President, there has been an increase increased impunity on our roads. Mr. President, this is a human rights issue. Everybody needs to go and reach safely to their respective destination. But when it comes to some of us who drive red cars, red number plates, the police, the army, if you are driving on the road, you can just witness and you know the impunity that those 3 categories of people actually exercise on our roads. It's something that we must address, because if we don't address it, definitely the public will turn against us, even among the 3 categories of people. I was once a victim of the violence that took place after the arrest of one of the presidential candidates by then. And you know that the target was actually government cars, police, and the reason why they were doing it is because people who are in government, we have behaved in a way that we create anger against us in the way we behave. And this is a question that we must address. Some of us who work with government, so that we seem all of us to be within the confines of the law, so that we don't have a class that seems to be above the law and a class that should follow the rules. We should all of us follow the rules. Another last one is the point of concern. We are talking about, yes, very good innovations within the judiciary. The prison was telling us they have now more convicts than remandees, which is a very good plus. But we need to evaluate the quality of justice that is meted out. And Uganda Law Society should actually take a lead here. Because in the process of wanting us to tackle so many things, especially the congestion in prison, we are ending up abusing more rights, especially in some of these innovations. So the Law Society should interest itself in the quality of the justice that we are championing. Police, the director, Henry, take a look, just take a look, and visit CPS. Here, you can even walk there, and then look at the people who have been detained there for not only days, weeks, and some of them months. We can do better. We can work on it. Let us know what we can do. We are willing, and we have sometimes the capacity. If it is the issue of lawyers, sir, I'm willing to give you lawyers to assist some of those people. But we have hit a snag, and especially CPS here, and we all know the reasons. Thank you.
Welcome. You talked about police. Before we forget about the offenses that need to be, maybe DPP can also guide. Apart from obtaining money by false pretenses, there is a criminal trespass and malicious damage to property. Those two, you see, they relate to land disputes, which they said are of a high incidence. So offenses relating to land disputes, they need a special also, the same way you're treating obtaining money by false pretense. They need that kind of guidance. Let's take a comment from the online community and then take a photo led by the president. So who is online speaking? Our IT guy is ready. Unmute yourself and shoot. Online, you need to be more aggressive. We need to hear the microphone. If there is none, or if they have forgotten that we are speaking, launching the report, Mr. President, call your members and everyone here to join you in a group photo in the way you'd want. Would you want to take a group photo while holding the mic? Fine. Why not? It's not illegal. But please, people come forward and yes, but yes, let him give us a closing 1-2 comments and then we take the photo.
Thank you, moderator. I just want to make a few comments. I know that so many things have been said here, and if I commented on everything, we'll do so in 1 hour. I just want to make a few comments. First, I want to appreciate all your concerns and the comments that you have raised here. I want to say thank you. Your comments continue to enrich the report. Your comments continue to give us a perspective on how we should make the report better. By way of example, the last time we were here, we said we needed to carry a status on what we have said and what has been done. And we have done that on page 30 of the report. If you look at page 30 of your report, we have provided a status of some of the recommendations we provided, what has been implemented, and that arises from a previous discussion that we had here. Number two, we're also organizing a very interesting discussion, some sort of think tank on how to make our report better. And that will be in the next quarter. We are organizing a think tank just on how to make, because this is our 28th quarterly rule of law report. At a certain point, we must stop, reflect, and understand where do we go from here. Is it enough to be producing these reports at a quarterly level, or we start to do some sort of monthly bulletin? You know, just by way of thinking, can we do some sort of monthly bulletin so that we are more responsive as and when things arise? So those are things that we want to, we'll invite a number of stakeholders to just a close discussion of where we should go next. On the issues, I think I want to thank my brother who raised the issue of traffic offenses and the increased impunity on our roads. I think this is very important. I think as Uganda Law Society, if the video clip where someone was killed by, I think it was a truck on Entebbe Road. Actually, that person was a member of the Uganda Law Society. The funeral service is happening at 11. And it's one of the reasons I delayed, because I had to first go to the mortuary to just, sort of. So the issue of, and these vehicle trucks, whether they, inspection, because clearly we are still waiting for the preliminary investigation report to just understand exactly what happened. But this is now becoming something that we need to respond to. Because all of us, you can imagine that gentleman was going to court. He was going to court. He wasn't overspeeding. He wasn't doing anything. He was just going to court, and he stuck at a traffic light. Then you have a truck that is coming through and then overturns on him. So all of us can be victim of this. So we need actually to be able to address it. The quality of justice, yes, and as Uganda Law Society, we have also taken an interest in plea bargain. We want to see the quality of justice. We've started with plea bargain series where we're having debates on plea bargain. Are actually people getting the quality of justice? So it is one thing that we're actually also reflecting on. I want to thank Uganda Police. The Uganda Police, we've had several engagements, and so we are going to have to continue that engagement to see how we can be able to support the Uganda Police. The Human Rights Defenders Bill, Doctor, I think it's important that we work together. We shall see if we can restart this process. It's important. There's no way we need to have the Human Rights Defenders Bill again restarted. So we shall be able to see how we can be able to support. My brother from we are used to Jello, so we shall take time to get used to the new. So program-based approach, we shall take interest in it and see how we can be able to support. UN Women, my sister Beatrice Mulindwa, thank you. Thank you. I think it is time for us to do just a specific analysis on some of these things. And I want to thank you for your support to the Uganda Law Society. The Uganda Law Society receives a lot of support from UN Women, and I must acknowledge you for the support that you give to us. Remember, there are so many issues, but we have taken note. And we will, as I have indicated, we will constitute that specific stakeholders forum to sort of discuss our reports and see how we can be able to make them better. So that at the next launch, which will be, I think, in July, we have a better report that has taken care of most of the concerns that are raised here. With those few remarks, allow me appreciate all of you for coming, but specifically our development partners, JELOS, German Embassy, Australian Embassy, UN Women, UNICEF, US Embassy, International Rescue Committee, the Office of the DPP, Uganda Police, UPDF, Uganda Prison Service, Uganda Human Rights Commission, Law Reform Commission, Human Rights Center Uganda, Foundation for Human Rights Initiative, Justice Centers Uganda, ACTV, LAPSNet, Pilgrim Center for Reconciliation, National Coalition for Human Rights Defenders. Thank you. This report cannot be what it is without your support. So I want to thank you again for always coming. With those few remarks, allow us take the group photo, and then we can have a good morning. I don't know whether the Austrian Embassy. You know, sometimes we confuse the continent and the country. It is the Austrian embassy. So I don't know where we can take the group photo. I don't know if this space is enough for all of us. Okay. So we can have some people seated. Can we have at least 10 chairs at the front?